Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at emotional self-care.
Ooh, self-care.
Yeah, it's all based on this source we got here.
Yeah.
Emotional self-care examples. Nurturing your well-being with practical tips.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought was really cool was that they emphasized this isn't like a luxury thing.
Right.
It's essential.
Yeah, like those spa days.
Like it's not just about, going and getting a massage.
Mhm.
It's about really like living a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
So we're going to be diving into all sorts of stuff, like even why saying no could be such a good thing for you.
Oh, I like that already.
Yeah. It's like an act of kindness to yourself.
Interesting. So where do we even begin with this whole emotional self-care thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I guess like what even is it?
Well, the source defines it as like acknowledging and tending to your emotional needs.
About,
It's about, recognizing what makes you happy, what stresses you out, and then like figuring out how to deal with those emotions in a healthy way.
so it's not just about like feeling good all the time.
No, not at all. It's about being aware of your emotions and then like managing them.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the source mentions that when you do this, it can actually improve your mental health.
Right. Like it can reduce stress and anxiety.
That's amazing. So like what are
Mhm.
some actual things we can do? Like I'm all about actionable steps.
Absolutely. So the Force talks about mindfulness techniques.
Okay, I've heard of that. What's that all about?
We'll think like deep breathing exercises.
Yeah.
Those can be so powerful for calming down when you're anxious.
I'll admit I haven't actually tried
You
those.
should. They're really helpful. And there are also things like grounding techniques.
Grounding techniques, what are those?
So imagine you're feeling totally overwhelmed, right? A grounding technique is something that brings you back to the present moment. Like you could just focus on feeling your feet on the ground.
Oh, okay.
Or just like really pay attention to your body and how it feels. It's like an anchor when your mind is racing.
That's actually really interesting. I never thought of it like that.
Hmm.
The source also talks about like spending time in nature and engaging your senses.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Is that connected to grounding?
It kind of is. Like, think about it. We're constantly bombarded with notifications and screens all day long.
It's true.
And nature gives you a break from all that. You can just unplug, breathe in some fresh air, and let your senses reconnect with the world around you.
Yeah, I definitely need to do more of that.
Yeah.
So that's mindfulness.
Mm.
What else does the source talk about?
Well, it also mentions creative expression as a way to process your emotions,
Like what?
like journaling.
Oh, yeah.
It can be so therapeutic to just write down your thoughts and feelings. It's like having a conversation with yourself on paper.
Yeah, I can see that. And the source specifically mentions dancing too.
Yes. Dancing is amazing for emotional release. It's such a powerful way to express yourself.
I love that.
It's not just about moving your body either. It's about connecting with your emotions and letting them flow.
Okay, I'm convinced I'm going to go have a dance party right now.
Haha, maybe later. But speaking of expressing ourselves, the source also talks about the importance of supportive relationships.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it also emphasizes the need for boundaries.
Boundaries. Oh. That's where I struggle.
It's tough for a lot of people.
I hate saying no.
I know. But the source presents it as a form of self-respect and even kindness.
Really?
How so?
Well, if you're always saying yes to everyone and everything, you end up feeling drained and resentful.
That's true.
And that can actually harm your relationships in the long run.
So boundaries are actually a good thing.
Exactly. When you learn to say no to things that drain you, you're saying yes to things that matter most.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do you actually get better at saying no?
Well, the source suggests starting small. Like maybe decline a telemarketer's call or politely say no to an extra commitment.
So it's like building up a muscle.
Yeah, exactly. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
That's good advice because I really do need to get better at that. And remember, you don't always owe people an explanation. A simple, thank you for the offer, but I'm not able to commit to that right now, is totally fine.
Short, sweet, and to the point, I like it.
Mm.
So we've talked about mindfulness, creative expression, supportive relationships, and boundaries. What else does the source cover?
It also talks about the importance of communicating your needs assertively.
Okay, so like how does that work with setting boundaries?
It's about expressing your needs clearly and respectfully. For example, instead of saying, I'm so stressed, you could say, I need some time to myself tonight to recharge.
Okay.
Or, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed right now. Can we talk about this later?
It's amazing how a little change in wording can make such a big difference.
Right. It's about finding that balance between honoring your own needs and being considerate of others.
This is all so insightful. I'm already starting to think about how I can apply this to my own life.
Me too.
Huh.
And we're just getting started. There's so much more to explore in this source, like the whole concept of self-compassion.
Ooh, I love that. We all need a little more self-compassion.
For sure. So let's dive into that next.
That's good. Alrighty.
You know, one thing that really struck me from the source was how they talked about emotional well-being.
Okay.
It's like just as important as physical health, you know?
Yeah, like you can't pour from an empty cup or whatever.
Exactly. And they made a good point about, like, if you don't take care of your emotional needs, everything else kind of falls apart.
Yeah, your relationships, your work, even like your physical health probably.
Exactly.
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah, totally. So it's like super important to prioritize this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I actually wanted to circle back to something we talked about earlier.
Okay, what's that?
Setting boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
That really resonated with me, but it's something I struggle with.
Yeah, I get that. It's tough. The source talks about how we often feel like we have to say yes to everything.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah.
Especially to people I care about, you know?
Right. And it makes you feel guilty when you say no.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But the source has this interesting idea that setting boundaries is actually like an act of kindness. Really.
Yeah.
To yourself and to others.
Yeah. Think about it. When you're constantly doing things you don't want to do, you end up feeling resentful.
True.
And that can actually damage your relationships.
I never thought of it that way.
It's kind of a paradox, but when you set boundaries, you're actually protecting your energy so you can show up better for the things that really matter.
Wow. I guess it's good to see the light here.
Yeah.
But, like, how do you actually get better at setting boundaries? I mean, saying no is so hard.
I know. It can be awkward, but the source suggests starting small, you know?
Like what?
Like, just say no to a telemarketer.
Okay.
Or, like, if someone asks you to do something you don't really want to do, just politely decline.
So it's like practicing saying no.
Exactly. And the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Okay, that's good to know because I really need to work on that.
And, you know, you don't always have to give a big explanation.
Right.
Just something like, thanks for the offer, but I can't commit to that right now.
Yeah, short and sweet. I like it.
Exactly. And the source also talks about communicating your needs assertively.
Okay, so what does that mean? Like in terms of boundaries?
It's about being clear about what you need, but in a respectful way.
Okay.
Like, instead of saying, I'm so stressed, you could say, I need some time to myself tonight to recharge.
Oh, that makes sense.
Or you could say, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. Can we talk about this later?
It's amazing how just changing the way you say something can make such a difference.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance between taking care of yourself and being considerate of others.
This is all making me realize how much I tend to put my own needs last.
It's easy to do that, especially these days. But remember, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, you're right.
You got to take care of yourself first.
So setting boundaries and communicating our needs are super important.
Absolutely. And you know, another thing the source talks about is taking breaks.
Breaks, like time off.
Yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle and forget to rest.
Ugh, tell me about it.
We're constantly bombarded with information and stimulation from our phones and computers and everything.
It's true. It can be overwhelming.
And that can lead to burnout if you don't take breaks.
So we should like schedule breaks into our day.
Yeah, even if it's just for a few minutes.
What are some good things to do during those breaks?
So the source mentions things like going for a walk, listening to music, or just closing your eyes and taking some deep breaths.
Okay. Yeah, those all sound good.
Anything that helps you relax and recharge.
Right. And it's important to have downtime too. Like evenings and weekends where you can disconnect from work and stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's about giving yourself permission to rest and do things you enjoy.
Yeah, I like that. So setting boundaries, taking breaks, all these things are important for preventing burnout.
Absolutely. And they're all part of emotional self-care.
This is all so insightful. Okay, so we've talked about boundaries breaks. Now I'm curious about self-compassion.
Ah, yes. Self-compassion. That's a big one.
We all need more of that, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
The source talks about how we tend to be our own worst critics.
Ugh, it's so true. I'm always so hard on myself.
Yeah, we beat ourselves up for mistakes, compare ourselves to others, focus on our flaws,
It's a never-ending cycle.
and it doesn't make us happy.
Nope. So how do we break out of that cycle?
Well, the source defines self-compassion as treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a friend.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's about recognizing that we're all human and we all make mistakes.
Yeah, we're not perfect.
Exactly, and we don't have to be.
So how do we actually cultivate more self-compassion?
Well, the source talks about things like positive affirmations.
Oh yeah, I've heard of those.
Mm-hmm.
But do they actually work?
Think of them like little pep talks for yourself.
Okay.
You're basically replacing negative thoughts with positive ones. The source gives the example of saying, I am enough.
I am enough.
Yeah, It sounds simple, but it can be really powerful.
I can see that. It's like reminding yourself of your worth.
Exactly. And the more you repeat these affirmations, the more you start to believe them.
And that can change your whole mindset.
Absolutely. So positive affirmations are one way to cultivate self-compassion.
Okay, what else?
The source also talks about self-care rituals.
Okay, when I hear rituals, I think of something complicated.
Uh-huh. No, it's not like that at all.
Okay, good.
It's just about doing things that make you feel good and nurtured.
Like what?
Like taking a warm bath, reading a book, spending time in nature, anything that brings you joy.
Okay, that sounds more manageable.
Exactly. It's about carving out time for yourself and doing things you love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's important. And it all ties back to self-compassion, right?
Absolutely. It's about showing yourself love and care.
And this reminds me of something else we talked about earlier, embracing mistakes and practicing forgiveness.
Yes, that's huge.
We all mess up sometime.
We do. It's
Yeah.
part of being human.
But instead of dwelling on our mistakes, we can learn from them and move on.
Exactly. Self-compassion is about letting go of perfectionism.
And accepting ourselves as we are.
Precisely. Flaws and all.
This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening. I feel like I'm learning so much about how to take care of myself emotionally.
That's great to hear. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah, you're right. There's always more to learn and grow.
For sure. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. Are you ready to move on to the final part?
Yeah, let's do it. So we've talked about so many different things like mindfulness and boundaries and self-compassion, and it's all really great stuff.
It is.
But I'm realizing that, like, all of this comes back to self-awareness.
You're so right. The
Mhm.
source doesn't specifically say that, but it's true.
Yeah, you can't really practice self-compassion or set boundaries if you don't even know what you're feeling, right?
Exactly. As you said, you need to know what you're feeling and what you need.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So how do we get better at that? Like,
Uh,
is self-awareness something you're just born with, or can you actually, like, learn it?
I think you can definitely develop it. It's like a muscle, you know?
Okay.
The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
So what are some ways we can exercise that self-awareness muscle?
Well, a lot of the stuff we've already talked about can help, like journaling.
Oh, yeah.
When you write down your thoughts and feelings, you're basically forcing yourself to pay attention to them.
Right. So, like, you're becoming more aware of what's going on inside.
Exactly. And things like meditation or deep breathing can also help you tune in to your present moment experience.
So it's all about paying attention to your thoughts, your feelings, your body sensation.
Yeah, and the more you do that, the better you'll understand yourself.
And then you can make choices that actually support your well-being.
Precisely.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It has been.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of emotional self-care.
I'm glad to hear that.
So before we wrap up, is there any final advice you'd like to give to our listeners?
Yeah, I would say just start small. You don't have to do everything at once.
Okay.
Pick one thing that resonated with you and try it out.
Like maybe start a journaling practice or take a few minutes each day to unplug from technology.
Exactly. Or create a little self-care ritual that you can do regularly.
Small steps can lead to big changes.
That's right. And remember, be patient with yourself. It takes time to cultivate emotional well-being.
This has been such a great conversation. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too.
So to all of you listening out there, remember to prioritize your emotional health. You deserve to feel good.
Absolutely. And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive on emotional self-care. Until next time, take care of yourselves.